Hi, my name is Brad Clark, and I'm the CEO and founder of Surmount Partners, which is a new breed of social finance intermediary. And so what we do is that we bring private sector best practices and talent to help scale social enterprises. We do that through two different vehicles. So a platform to create scale by investing in social enterprises, as well as creating a place for men and women that have a heart to serve, to give back by working inside these social enterprises. So if you were a CFO yesterday, you could be a CFO tomorrow, but just do it in the context of a social enterprise. Ask yourself the question, why do every humanitarian organization in Port-au-Prince, why do they need their own warehouse? And if you go to Khartoum, exactly how many white Land Rovers are necessary to serve the poor in Khartoum? Or ask yourself the question, how many hundreds of millions of dollars are wasted every year in loss of money through foreign currency exchange risk? And do we actually have a treasury function inside of most NGOs? So if you think about the humanitarian context, most experts would agree that this is about a $2+ trillion industry, and they would suggest to you that maybe 40 to 60% of that money flows through supply chain in some form or fashion. And that's all growing at a compound annual growth rate of the high single digits to the low double digits. So you have this massive, massive humanitarian industry that's not exposed to market forces. You compound that with these organizations. They operate on a cash-only basis. They typically are operating with restricted donations. They don't have any kind of a capital structure to speak of, certainly no equity, and generally they don't have any kind of leverage on their balance sheet as well. That all leads to an underinvestment in their core infrastructure and their business processes. You add to that the fact that the industry is highly fragmented. There are no mergers and acquisitions. There's a very, very low cost of entry, and it's very, very difficult for these organizations to work with each other. So that leads us to the core purpose of Struxus. And so what Struxus does, it is a neutral, charitable, fourth-party aggregator of logistics demand and consolidation of procurement. And so effectively what we're doing is we're taking those private sector concepts of business process outsourcing, putting that into a charitable organization that's funded by equity and sustained by revenue. So you get cognitive dissonance with that. So charitable organization funded by equity, those two words don't go together. So this is a new form of a hybrid entity that's approved in the United States called a low-profit limited liability company. So it's an L3C, and it's funded by equity, sustained by revenue, yet it has as its core purpose a charitable endeavor. And in this case, it's to try to drive efficiencies and effectiveness and lower cost in the humanitarian context. So there's three things that it does. The first is that it's a non-asset-based aggregator of demand. And so what that means is that as we consolidate the procurement power of all these humanitarian organizations, we drive a lower cost in the marketplace for those organizations, and the people that pay the bill for that are the private sector companies. And so we're effectively funding the charity through lower prices by aggregating demand and putting those contracts to the private sector. The second thing that's different about it is that the capital structure, unlike the NGOs, the capital structure here, it does include equity, and that could be through a DFI, through a foundation making investment, high net worth individual, or possibly a corporation. But it also leverages its balance sheet, and so it accesses both development debt as well as commercial debt. And finally, the big deal with it is that this provides a platform or a vehicle for major granting organizations to try to create ways to incentivize or outcome-based granting. So for example, if a major grantor had a $100 million food program, for example, that they would talk with their grantee and say, if you're able to reduce your expenses, deliver the same benefit, but reduce your expenses by 10% or save $10 million, we'll keep $5 million and we'll give another $5 million back to you in the form of an unrestricted grant. So effectively what Struxus is designed to do is to bring those private sector best practices and be a surrogate for market forces, but act on the benefit of the humanitarian organizations. Well, for me, this was, I was running a division of Sprint in the United States, and felt called to be able to give back some way, somehow. And I was very frustrated in trying to find some place to plug in. And so for me, part of my, or most of my motivation is can I create a platform for other men and women that want to give back and use their private sector skills in a way to benefit the social context. And so that's my core motivation. Globally, yeah. So you have world headquarters in Kansas City. It's a wonderful collection of such a diverse diverse group of people that are pulling in the same direction. So I'm really struck by the power of the diversity of thought here.